And there we go, we're live. Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your Lino Shorty. Couple things before we get started on this one. Number one, this might run for more than 5 minutes. Secondly, I'm reviewing Blood Syndicate. And for reasons which might become obvious, we have to start with a little bit of a caveat of something that, if you're watching this video, you're already going to know. But some people have been told just listen to the audio on this one, so don't blame me. I'm not very pretty. Just want to make sure everyone is fully aware. I am exceptionally white, so when I'm going to be discussing things in here, there's a chance I'm going to be talking from a point where I don't have the same kind of lived experiences. I am trying my best fairly constantly to be a better person about this kind of thing. As much as I'd like to think of myself as anti-racist and anti-fascist, those are self-appointed labels do not mean you can just say that and that's enough. It means constantly learning and realizing you can still make mistakes because we also have implicit biases, and I might say something with the best possible intentions and get it wrong. So if I say anything about a culture which I do not represent, then I would hope that people call me on it. I actually would prefer it if you did. I don't take any offense by it. In fact, I'd rather be a better person and carry on going forward. Right. That's out of the way. The reason that all comes is we're talking about is because Blood Syndicate is written by people of color, and it is dealing with that kind of issue, which includes gang violence, first and foremost, with also superpowers thrown in there for entertainment. Now, we're going to start with a couple things about this comic book, which are criticisms, because I want to get this out of the way first. Number one is the coloring. This is the kind of coloring which I've said before is not my cup of tea. It's all very crisp, very clear, and clearly computer generated, and I think it makes everything just like a little bit too shiny. And when you're doing these kind of grim stories, including warfare, like actual warfare in the Gulf and on city streets, I think that kind of cool, crisp coloring actually detracts a little bit from the setting and the style of storytelling you're going to do. It's not the end of the world, but it's something I'm not a big fan of. Secondly, when it comes to some of the writing, I can't help but feel that this one should have actually gone to a bit more of a mature audience, because when you're dealing with Marines under fire, and when you're dealing with people also living their lives as in quite hard situations, having the cursing asterisks out and what have you, just, I don't know, it feels like it's selling it short and it's kind of trying to sanitize it a little bit. Now, those are obviously minor things, and the only reason I'm getting them, saying them at all, is kind of make sure that people know I'm not just heaping praise for no other reason. There's a lot of things I like about it, but there's a couple which aren't perfect. Things I like about it, we're going to start with the artwork, because the pencil work and the ink work, Chris Cross and I want to say Juan Castro, doing the penciling and inks respectively, do a fantastic job. There's so many things I like about the artwork in this one. From just the background settings, with the amount of detail, is absolutely brilliant. They really get a sense of place in every single frame they're doing. There's also just so much in character design as well. You get a sense of who people are, not just from their dialogue, but also the way they have their haircut, the way their facial expressions can change when they're talking to different people, the way they stand and the way they hold themselves. There's an awful lot of non-verbal communication going on in this comic book, and the fact that it's something which is good enough that I'm talking about shows you how good it is. Like, if you pick this up, you're going to notice it. It is fantastic. But it's not like just the artwork that I like as well, because it's also a really good action sequence, a really good action comic book as well. So it could be a really slow burn, character driven thing, and it'd be just as good because the artist really leans into this kind of thing. But there's also, as I say, Marines Under Fire in, I can't remember the name of the place, but I think some kind of Gulf War kind of thing. Apologies for not remembering the specific name of the place they gave it. But there's also superhero battles and some gang warfare fights going on as well. Sometimes through flashbacks, sometimes through actual happening, and it all works brilliantly. It doesn't feel like it's jarring. It doesn't feel like you are being dragged hither and thither by the storyline. It all comes about perfectly naturally, and when it happens, they are fantastic. They do feel vibrant. They feel vital as well. You do get a sense of danger. These people are in peril, and they respond as you'd expect them to, and it looks fantastic while it does so. When you've got superheroes thrown into the mix and just normal people, you do run the risk a little bit of having an almost X-Men-esque kind of over-the-top extravagant costumes, and it feeling completely out of place within a normal world. The couple of superhero costumes you see are kind of normal-ish looking. They're extravagant, certainly. They do stand out from the crowd, but not in such a way that people are like, God, what is that person wearing? I've just remembered one other thing, which I wasn't sure if I was going to mention this as a negative, but it's worth bringing up. The main bad guy, the big villain, he's called Holocaust. That's a loaded word. That is the kind of thing where if you're going to use it, you have to use it confidently. You have to make sure you're using it correctly. You're not going to end up really, really alienating people. But I do think it's going to be handled that way, because this is obviously not this character's given name. At no point did he, his mother and father sit down and think, well, what are we going to call our baby? I know, Holocaust. This is clearly a choice made, which absolutely telegraphs that he is one of the worst human beings you're ever going to meet. If that is his chosen name, he is not a nice guy. Like, there's literally no gray area in that whatsoever. And I kind of like that they absolutely telegraph that right from the get-go. Because we're now talking about that, let's actually talk about some more of the writing, because the writing is fantastic as well. There is stuff where, again, the Marines Under Fire bit is fantastic. It does feel very authentic. And again, not that I've ever been a Marine under fire, but I have engaged with some media that's been done from people who have lived that, and I've seen their stories, and it does feel like this is a fair representation of it. Apart from the swearing, put some swearing in. I mean, make it a slightly more mature reader thing. DC will be fine with it, I'm sure. But the actual dialogue throughout is fantastic as well. Again, it's used to add a sense of character in the same way that the art is, but it also is like incredibly naturalistic. We get two people who have not seen each other for a while, and they're talking and catching up, and it's fantastic. You got them trying to get a point across, but asking questions, and then you'll get that moment where somebody's reminded of something. It's like, oh, Sarah, yeah, I've not seen Sarah for a while. How's Sarah doing? Oh, she's fine. She's now with such and such. Oh, hang on, what were we talking about before Sarah came up? It's that kind of writing which I absolutely adore. Now, a lot of people who write professionally will tell you that there's no point putting stuff like that into the story unless it actually helps the story or advances the story. I kind of disagree, but I also think this does advance the story, because what it does is advance characters. And again, this is what this comic book appears to be about. Yes, there are big over-the-top moments which are absolutely fantastically done, but it's a character comic first and foremost. They spend so long letting you live under the skin of these people that you can't think anything else. I am definitely over my 5 minutes, but I've got a couple more things I just really quickly need to add. First off, I love the queer representation in this comic book. It's a minor thing, but I absolutely love it. It's not done as like an overt thing. It's literally a guy who's been experiencing his life for a while at this point, when he just kind of drops in the fact that he's got a big crush on one of the male superheroes. And he does it in such a way that is perfectly naturalistic. And it's kind of like, well, no, kind of, it's overtly sexual, but in a way which just works. And if you study things like minorities and how much they're represented within media, and also understand the people of color within a lot of marginalized groups are, if anything, more marginalized, stuff like hood feminism, and how organizations like Stonewall still oppose racism, then seeing people of color represented in a positive light where they're not necessarily either an icon for that lifestyle or a victim because of that lifestyle. They are just people living their life. That is really important, and it's absolutely fantastic to see it. And finally, before we go, one last little nod on the artwork. Character design is great in so many levels. The clothes people wearing, how they handle themselves, but also just stuff like the haircuts. I think at least twice in this book, I was like, that's a dope fade. Just those little bits and pieces all come together to make this a genuinely compelling comic book set within a larger framework of superheroes and what that means. There's so much other stuff they can and hopefully will do with it, including superheroes within marginalized societies, and how people are going to use that power against, and what the super powered people like the Icon and Rocket, as it were, what they can and can't do. Do they swoop in and save the day for everyone, or is it they are kind of removed from the day-to-day situation, like they're superheroes, they deal with superhero problems? Is that going to be a problem when we carry on going through this story? I don't know, and I want to find out. I genuinely can't wait to see what happens in the rest of this. Absolutely worth taking your time and checking it out. I am well over my time here, so I do have to go. I'll be back next week. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye. Oh, that has not ended. Apologies, everyone on YouTube.